How is it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're gonna be showing the FRS some love today, and I'm super excited to announce that we're gonna be partnering up with Perrin Performance this year. So I've got a bunch of new parts from them, some of which we'll install in this video and some in a later video. But today we've got their new air oil separator that's gonna be available for both the first gen and the second gen, and a new strut tower bar. For those of you who aren't familiar with what an AOS is or does, let me give you a crash course. So with a combustion engine, like everything else, it's not perfect. So inside the combustion chamber, once that detonation happens, some pressure and gases can escape through the piston seals into the crankcase, and that's what we call blow-by. And in the crankcase, it can mix with the oil vapors, and that's where the PCV system comes into play. It's designed to release the pressure inside the crankcase, otherwise you're going to start blowing out gaskets and seals. So when that PCV valve opens, it reroutes the air through the intake system. The problem with that is once that valve opens up, it allows the blow-by with the oil vapor to go into the intake system and start contaminating different components, which is not ideal for the performance of the car. So what an air oil separator does is reroutes that PCV system through the AOS, and like the name suggests, it separates the oil from the air. So it allows the clean air to go back into the intake system while dumping the oil that it collects back into the engine. It also has coolant that flows through the bottom here to maintain optimal temperature in that oil, so you don't get that milky oil substance that you can sometimes see on cold days or short drives. Now, some people may ask what the difference between a catch can and an AOS is. Well, the main difference is that this AOS is a lot less maintenance. With a catch can, you have to worry about it filling up and you having to dump it because it collects the oil that it's able to trap. With an AOS, it's designed to allow that engine allow the oil to flow back into the engine, so you don't really have to worry about it. So let's go ahead and show you how to get this thing installed. Let's take a look at this. You can see that I've already installed all the fittings, which is pretty self-explanatory, but I wanted to show you this to give you a reference for the 90-degree fittings. You can see the one on the bottom is pointed towards the mounting locations over here. And then this 90-degree fitting is at a 45-degree angle pointed towards the logo. And the one on the very top is pointed the same direction as this fitting. Now, one thing I wanted to point out is that this comes with a foam filter pre-installed, which is only recommended for race cars. If you drive your car in any sort of cold weather, it's highly recommended that you remove it, because what's gonna end up happening is the condensation is gonna build up inside and then freeze, and this isn't going to work properly. So to remove that, you just take out this Allen bolt on the very bottom. That's gonna allow you to remove this piece, and then you can pull the foam filter out and then just reinstall this and you're good to go. Just make sure that the O-ring is seated properly when you go to reinstall this. We're gonna install the mounting bracket first, and it utilizes the same mounting locations as the OEM strut tower bars. These two on the passenger side here. It's a 12mm nut and bolt, so go ahead and remove those. We want the included washers in between the strut bar and the mounting bracket. So we'll put one on the stud there, and then I'll put one on the back of the bracket, and we'll reinstall the nut and bolt. We need to remove the engine cover to get access to the hose underneath, so I'm just going to pull up on the front edge there. Underneath the engine cover, you're gonna see two hoses on the first gen. For the second gen, you're just gonna see one hose. But the hose on the passenger side is going to be the crankcase vent hose, which is what we're going to want to pull off. Yours may be more reluctant, so you may need to grab a pair of hose pliers to break it loose. Just try and rotate it to break it free, and then you should be able to pull it off. Mine is coming off easily, and I can kind of see why, because there's a little bit of oil residue there. So probably should have done this a long time ago, but better late than never. Now, if you follow this hose down to the block, you're gonna get to the PCV valve. So go ahead and pull this hose off of the valve, and we're also going to need to remove that valve as well. This thing does not wanna come out. Oh, I think I got it, okay. Whew. So that rusty thing down there is the PCV valve that we'll remove. On the first gen, it's a 19mm On the second gen, it is a 22. So you'll need a deep socket and a swivel joint and a extension. I'm gonna install the new included barb fitting using an 11/16. Once that fitting is installed on the block, you're gonna wanna take the 1/2" hose that's included and cut it into a 2" section and a 10" section, and then connect the two with the included T. And on the 1/4" side of the T, we'll install the 1/4" hose that's included. And then this end is going to install onto the fitting that we just installed on the block. Earlier, when I installed the mounting bracket, I showed you that I reinstalled the OEM nut. Don't do what I did. Use the supplied nut and washer instead, otherwise there's going to be a little bit of a clearance issue with the bend right here, so don't use that one. We're going to install the AOS onto the bracket using the 5mm Allen bolts. Now that we have the AOS mounted, I've got the 1/2" hose that goes from that T to the 90-degree fitting on the front, and then the 1/4" line from that T goes to the 90-degree fitting on the very bottom. And now we're gonna work on the coolant lines. All right, so on the back of the engine, on the driver's side, you're gonna see this coolant line right there in the middle. You can see the clamp right there that I've moved up, and a bunch of paper towels that I've stuffed down there because we're likely going to leak some coolant out. Now, I'm not actually gonna show you me doing this because you're not gonna be able to see anything and it's a tight space, but this coolant hose leads to the throttle body, and I'm gonna pull this line off and quickly get the 5/16" hose with the straight connector onto there and kind of create a loop to prevent any more leaking, but let's see what happens. So as expected, a bunch of coolant leaked out, but I did get the hose installed. So one end is connected to the pipe, and then the other end goes over to the straight connector that goes into the hose we pulled off. So what we need to do now is cut this hose to length to connect to the fittings on the bottom of the AOS. I've got the hose cut, so let's take a look. This is the original hose that we pulled off that leads to the straight connector into a short portion that goes into one of the fittings on the bottom of the AOS. And on the other fitting, we have a longer hose that leads to the pipe that we pulled the OEM hose off of. We're gonna remove this hose here that goes to the intake inlet tube. So we'll move this clamp back. And just twist this off. We're gonna take that hose that we just removed and route it towards the back of the car and take the 5/16" hose in the kit and connect it to the connector that we installed. And this hose we're gonna cut to length and connect it to the port on the side of the AOS. Here's the hose that we pulled off of the intake inlet, and that now leads to the port on the side of the AOS. So now we need to route this port right here into the Y section, and then one part is gonna go to the top of the AOS and the other one is gonna go to the original crankcase vent hose that we will twist over here. I'll show you that once I get that routed. Okay, so here is the final routing of the AOS. So from the intake inlet tube, we go into a Y. This section here goes to the top port, and then the hose that went to the intake inlet originally goes to the port on the side. And then off of the Y, this also goes to, I forgot to show you guys this, but we do reuse the original PCV valve and we connect it back to the crankcase vent hose here. And then we use the included adapter to connect it to the other hose off of that Y fitting there. And then, like I showed you guys earlier, we've got the coolant lines and then the lines that go into the block for the oil to drain and to finish off the loop. So now the AOS is fully installed, and now we can work on this, removing this old strut bar and installing the new one. Thankfully, I left the easiest part for last. It's just two 12mm nuts on both sides, and we can take this old one off. I've disassembled the Perrin strut tower brace, and we're gonna install the feet first here with the included new hardware, and we're just gonna hand tighten these for now. Then we can set the beam in there, and we'll install the cap, and then we'll hand tighten the hardware on this too, and this is done to align the feet to make sure everything is straight. Once the bar is locked down on both sides, that's gonna ensure that the feet are straight, so we can torque the nut that's exposed down to 14 foot-pounds. And that'll lock it down into place. And then again, we'll disassemble the bar to reveal the other nut, and torque that down, and then put everything back together. Well, there you go, guys. The Perrin air oil separator and strut tower brace is now installed. That's gonna help to give me some peace of mind and help to stiffen things up just a little bit more. And the red is also a nice contrast in the engine bay as well. And like I said, I've got some other things to install later on down the road, but huge thank you to Perrin Performance for the partnership. Definitely check out their website to see what else they have to offer for the FRS, BRZ, 86, and GR86 chassis. But that is gonna do it for today, guys. I am absolutely beat. I think it's like midnight, well past my bedtime, but we're gonna go inside, get this thing edited. If you guys are enjoying the content, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and if you wanna help support the channel, check out the driven.media website to pick up some merch, overlays, and other accessories. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.